Hi everyone, Matt Keeney here to talk a little bit about Gmail. If we haven't met, I'm a staff member at Jefferson College and I also teach as an adjunct. And today going to focus on a couple of the settings features on Gmail. So it's not a basic tutorial on how to use the email platform, but rather to look at a few things, including the layout of the settings menu, how to create labels, and then finally how to create filters. So I'm going to navigate to my web browser, and that's Screencast-O-Matic. That's what I'm using to create this video. And I'm going to go over to an email account that I've created for the purpose of this tutorial. So you only see one message there. Obviously in our jeffco.edu email accounts, we have many more messages for the most part. And I should say that, of course, yes, Jefferson College email is actually Gmail, as many of you are aware. So the things I'm going to talk about here will apply to your Jefferson College email accounts, your jeffco.edu email accounts. I also should say that this is, of course, being recorded on a laptop. So if you use the mobile apps for Gmail on any mobile devices, you're certainly going to see a different look than you see here, but you should still have all of the similar options there. But generally, setting up these labels and filters might be easier to do in some cases on a desktop or laptop computer. But of course, that all depends on the user. So I'm here in my inbox, and you see a message that has been sent to me from my jeffco.edu account. Over here on the left, you'll have a menu, and I might need to click more to expand that. Sometimes too, you might have the chat menu that's up here covering some of that. I've dragged that down already, and you may want to do that as well on your computer. Just wanted to point that out. So here are all of the different things that I have on my menu. And before we move further over to settings, which is this gear, I want to quickly point out that you do have an option that's pretty quick to where you can star a message. And you click the star icon, it highlights that star in gold, and then there's a starred label over here on your menu. And if I click that label, it's going to take me into the starred label, and I can see that up here in my search bar. And any message that I would have starred will appear in that area. So that's a nice way that if you get some messages in your inbox that you know are important, you can star those very quickly and then find them quite easily later if you're not able to do anything with those messages right at the moment. So that's one option. Again, it's a quick option. You may also use your labels for that, but the start option is very fast in case you need to do that quickly and don't have time to deal with those messages right then. So I'm going to navigate back to my inbox. I really didn't have to actually, but I'm going to go to the settings gear, open that, and then choose settings from the menu there. And in this settings area, I want to point out you have some different tabs at the top. So right now I'm on general, but I can click labels, I can click inbox, and so on. And we're only going to talk about a few things in this video, but there are many, many options here that you can certainly look through later if you would like. I'm going to start on the general tab. And within that general tab, there are many, many options. I'm only going to point out a few here. You're welcome to look this over in more detail later. The first thing as I scroll down, I would like to show you is maximum page size. That's currently set at 50 conversations per page, essentially 50 messages that you see. Obviously within a message there could be many replies, so that's really what it's talking about. But I can open that menu and choose 100. Sometimes I find that helps me out a little bit to where I just see more conversations on that first page before I have to arrow to another page. If you have a lot of emails in your account, of course, you're not going to see everything, but that has helped me out before to find things a little bit quicker that at least came in somewhat recently. I'm going to scroll down just to show you as you go down farther. The second thing I want to point out here is your signature. So I have no signature set up on this account, which again, I just created for the purposes of doing a couple tutorials, but I could easily check the dot under no signature to activate the signature, and then I could type in anything I would want here. So my name, a lot of times people may put in their title, maybe a phone number. Really, that's up to you. For employees, I would say that there was a message sent out that we were asked to put in our email signatures. It has to do with the COVID-19 situation. So you could go find the email message that was sent to you earlier, highlight that text, copy it, and then paste it here into your signature. That's the second thing I wanted to talk about. The final thing on this general tab on your settings is your vacation responder. Again, I realize many of you may already be aware of that, but mine is currently off. If there's ever a situation where you know you're not going to be able to check your email, the vacation responder will send a message to anybody that emails you to let them know that maybe you won't be able to get back to them very quickly. You can check that to be on. You can set your dates of when it starts, when it ends, type in a subject line, and type in a message with whatever information you would like to appear on the reply to somebody. So those are three things I wanted to talk about on the General tab. Okay, the second part of this video, as I said, would be labels. So here in your settings, I'm going to briefly click on labels just to show you that this is a place you can go to manage your labels within the settings. You can show them, you can hide them. And that is really more about managing the labels you already have. Yes, you can create new ones here if you like, but a lot of times I like to do that over in my inbox when a message comes in. So that's where I'm going to navigate to is my inbox. It's going to ask me do I want to save the changes I just made over in the general settings? And no, I don't need to. I'm going to click OK to say yes, it's fine to discard those. Obviously on your account, you may want to save those. So let's talk about a label for this email that is in my inbox currently with the subject line of test. If I click on that email, now I started before, I'll go ahead and unstar it though. And I'll click on that email. And then once the message is brought up here at the top of any message, you have some options. And one of those, as I move along that row, is called labels. And if I click that, it expands a menu. Right here, you can see the labels that Gmail already has set up for you by default. And up here, there's a search bar where you can search through your labels. Again, labels are basically like folders. That's a good way to think about it if you're used to using Windows or a Mac and you organize your files in folders. Well, you can organize your email account with these labels and perhaps make it easier to find messages later on. Yes, you can search for them up here, but I found even when searching for messages, when you have so many messages, it can still be a challenge at times to find that message you're searching for. So putting a label onto these messages, or maybe I should say putting these messages into labels, is a good way to help you keep organized. Here I'm going to go ahead and create a new label. And then it's going to ask me on a new screen, what do you want to call that label? I'm just going to say test. If you are teaching or if you're a student and you want to make a label that says, say, it's called courses or classes or whatever you would want to call it, just be aware that you can then nest other labels, and you can see it here, nest under that main label. So essentially you can have subfolders under a label called classes, and then maybe each class you teach or each class you are enrolled in or taking, you could have a separate label for that. Just an idea. But I'm going to go ahead and click Create for my test label. After I've done that, now you can see at the top of the message near the subject line, I can see it's in my inbox, yes, but it's also now in that test label. Okay, if I ever want to remove a label from a message, you can click the X here to do that. And you can see the screen tip is telling me that same information. Over here on your left-hand bar, I'll go ahead and expand it, although I can see the label right here. That's where you'll see them. So there's my test label. If I click that, there's the one message that I have put into that label. And if I had more, you'd see them all right here. So those are labels. Again, you can set up labels in a different manner, but typically what I like to do is click on a message. If I need to create a new label, I can do that as I just showed you. Or if I already have an existing label, then I can click that label icon and check any label here that I would want to add it to. And as you can see, it's in test, test is already checked. I could add a message to several labels at once, by the way. That's certainly an option too. So that's labels. The final thing I want to talk about is filters. And I'm going to go back to my settings. Again, there are many different ways you can do the things I'm discussing, whatever's most comfortable for you. I'm just doing it the way I normally would. I'm going to go back to my settings. And then for filters, up here on your tabs, notice there is one called filters and blocked addresses. Okay, now I have a filter I made earlier. I'm going to check that and actually delete it so I can show you how to make a new one here. And that is what I would want to do. So we're pretending you don't have any filters set up. You come into this section of your settings, and then you choose Create New Filter. And essentially what a filter can do is direct messages that come into your inbox into certain labels, or there are other things you can automatically have Gmail do with certain messages, depending on the filters that you set. So again, a lot you can do with it. One thing though I find helpful, and this is what I'm going to show you here, is typing in a certain email address that I know of a person who emails me frequently. You know, if you're a student, it could be your teacher. If you're an employee, it could be a coworker or your supervisor. For the purposes of this video, I'm typing in my Jeffco email address. Now, as you can see, there are some other options here, but as I said, this is a good way to apply those filters. So say when someone who's important emails you that you set the filter for, that email will automatically go into a label, for instance. It will also go into your inbox, but it automatically goes into a label, so you don't have to worry about going in and checking that each time. So I have my email address typed in that I want to, then I click Create Filter. Now on this page, there are other things you can do with filters, and you can look through these options on your own. What I'm going to though do is check Apply the Label and open the menu and choose that test label that I just made a few minutes ago. Again, many other things you can do with filters though. You can do more than just sending them to a label, as you can see. But that's all I want to do now, so I'm going to click Create My Filter. Okay, and now my filter is set. I'm going to go back over to my inbox. And what I'm going to do is send an email from another device from my Jeffco EDU account to this account. And again, remember, I set that filter so that any emails from that jeffco.edu account will appear in that test filter. And it took a few seconds, but here it is. So here it is from my other account. It's titled Hello. And look, there is that label. So I didn't have to go in here and actually check that test label. It automatically put it in the test label, as well as my inbox, of course, because I made that filter just a few moments ago. And again, I can go to my test label just to make sure, and yes, there it is. I haven't clicked on it yet. It's still in bold, but I can click on it. There's the message. Go back to my inbox. There are those same messages. Okay, so just to recap, showed you a little bit about the settings and some things you can do in the general area that are important. We talked about making labels. So on this message, I went into the message itself and created a new label. And then we talked about creating filters. And one thing you can do with filters is have emails from a certain email address go into a label automatically. And as I sent this second email, you can see it automatically went in to that test label. Of course, a lot of other things you can do, but those are just some things I wanted to highlight on this quick Gmail tutorial. Thanks so much. Take care.